Hi there, everyone. This is Mark Maloney, host of the Mark Mo Show podcast, available on YouTube and podcast platforms with new episodes every Saturday. Special thanks goes out to WVLP station manager Greg Kovac and my producer, Aidan Maloney. I would also like to thank each and every one of you for listening in and week out. I hope you enjoy our content, and please like, share, and subscribe. This week on the Mark Mo Show Fireside Chat is real estate professional at Properties, Hannah Trueblood. Hannah, how are you?
Amazing. Thank you for having me. This is so fun to be on the other side of the microphone.
I know, right? Because Hannah here at WVLP Radio in Valparaiso, Indiana, she has a show that she does on Mondays called Conversations. Mm-hmm. And it's a really great show. Actually, there are 4 different hosts now. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, every Monday is a different one.
Yeah, which I think is a great concept.
Yeah, it's fun.
And some of your more recent shows have been amazing.
Yeah, and I actually have my next guest. I don't know exactly when this airs, but the next newest episode of this is going to be, actually, I interviewed my managing broker. So.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so I guess this is just like a real estate conversation weekend for me.
It really is. It really is. But there's a lot to talk about for sure with everything that is going on. But we don't have an audience that is just rooted here in Valpo or Northwest Indiana, which we all call the region. Mm-hmm. This is a global audience. So why don't you introduce yourself to the world, Hannah Trueblood?
Yeah. Wow. Well, I'm Hannah Trueblood. I'm a region rat, born and raised in Valparaiso, raising my family here. I'm a full-time real estate agent, been full-time since, I started in 2017 and went full-time in 2020. Actually, that's like a whole other story.
Oh.
Is going full-time in real estate, like leaving a guaranteed paycheck.
Sure.
Literally the same week that they shut the world down for COVID.
Going all chips in during COVID.
It was like I went to bed. I had put in my 2 weeks. I finished my final day. I got my last paycheck. I went to bed. I woke up the next morning, and they were declaring the stay-at-home warnings and stuff. And that I had just committed to selling houses full-time, which, generally speaking, you have to be out in the public. You can't really do it at home. So yeah. So been doing that full-time now, and it's been great. Big involvement in, advocacy throughout the community. I grew up an activist daughter, so have always been taught, to leave things better than how they were given to me. And that's really kind of my life's mission, is just helping people and doing the next best thing and just trying to leave the world a little better than how it was given to me. So
I love that.
That's really my whole life philosophy. I love to have fun. I love to work hard, and I love to help other people. And that's basically who I am, I think, for now.
and I love that. And that's boy, if that's a lesson to pass on to anyone, that's just how to do it. So, but we're really, really super happy to have you here. This is our second Fireside Chat. The first one we had YMCA in here talking about a variety of things. That was a great conversation. And then I was so excited that you agreed to come in, because the world's kind of crazy right now, and there's a lot of different things going on. And I was thinking the other day of how much that is going on in Capitol Hill. It's getting a little tariff crazy, and we know what that means trickling down into every other bit of life and business in the country. Mm-hmm. And I thought, wow, what a really good time to have a conversation about real estate, because this is about the time where things really start ramping up in the industry. Big time. Unless you're Florida, which that's just a crazy hot market all the time.
All the time.
It's kind of its own thing. But like for the rest of us that actually have like a winter, so to speak,
right.
This is kind of the ramp up. So the first question and that I want to ask you is home prices, mortgage rates, they're still trending high. And when I say high, it's in comparison to
where it was,
where we were at that time you went full time.
Yeah, the 2% interest rates.
Right. And so high compared to that, do you see any changes coming this summer?
Oh, that's like kind of a loaded question, because I feel like in terms of major changes, I would say no. I know that, it's really easy to kind of fall into the trap of like, oh, this big event is going to occur in the market because big events are happening everywhere else.
Yeah.
But my experience in just studying markets and just being involved in it and hearing from agents who have been around for a really long time and have lived through, major recessions or anything like that, I know that the change is going to be kind of a slow trickle over time, and that's already happening. So big change, no. I'd say that par for the course of kind of what I've been expecting to see, I guess, and just in terms of market movement. Like you mentioned, in the 2020 through 2022 period, it was like a frenzy.
Oh, for sure.
And they dropped the interest rates. The prices skyrocketed through to the moon. It was overly saturated with buyers and undersaturated with sellers. And a big part of that came from that, like, all these buyers jumped on everything, and it was so competitive. A lot of people right now have homes that they need to sell in order to buy the next thing.
Sure.
And so they couldn't compete in that market, because if you had a home to sell before you could buy the next one, they wouldn't really consider your offer because they've got people here that could have cash, could close in 2 weeks, or don't have to sell something. There's less, hurdles to get through. People were waiving inspections. People were paying cash over appraised value. Like, it was nuts.
Wow.
It was nuts. Like, you could not compete in that market. So a lot of people, and two, they would say, well, I have nowhere to go. If I list my house, it's going to sell in a day with multiple offers. And then I'm having to compete, putting in 16 different offers. I don't know where to go. So they didn't even list it. And so that contributed to the problem. It was a lot of housing inventory being held hostage by situations of the market. So although it felt like a really dramatic, shocking, like, adjustment when those interest rates hiked back up and we just shot up into 6, 7, 8% range, people were like, what in the world is happening? And so they think, oh, we can't afford to buy a house in this market, we have to wait for it to crash. And I just don't think that that's going to happen. You see the stock market took a huge dump recently, and so people see that and they're like, oh, okay, like, here we go, 2008, let's, the housing market is next. But the reality is that people are sitting on more equity than they ever have in the market history. And the difference between now and then is that there was a ton of predatory lending going on.
Yep.
And the interest rate, like the way that people had negative amortized mortgages, meaning that you were not paying any of your principal and you were actually like owing more as time goes on. And so then when they, lost their job, or when the banks fell out and all that happened, all of those predatory lending practices caused the market to go under because people didn't have the equity to sell the house. Right. So that's why they had to go on fire sale in foreclosure. But now, if your home were to be, if that was a situation that you were in, more likely than not, you have at least enough equity to break even and get out of your situation without going under like that. So, and the demand is still so high, people are going to be willing to pay. So, it's not, I wouldn't consider it a pessimistic thing. I think it's a good thing that the stock market, that the housing market isn't going to crash, in my opinion.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
Because it just allows for a more stable and fair market, which allows more like equitable exchanges for buyers and sellers. And we want a win-win situation for people. We don't want somebody coming out of that feeling like they got ripped off. So having a stable market with a reasonable interest rate and a steady market, like all of these things happening, is, in my opinion, good news for the market. And I think we're going to see a lot more positive changes in real estate. That was a really long-winded answer.
No,
I'm sorry.
that was a great answer.
Went right in.
No, that's awesome. I love it. And this is kind of related to that. Do you see inventory increasing at all this summer. And there's a quote that I came across, and this is from a senior economist at Realtor.com, Joel Berner, where he said the U.S. faces a supply gap of nearly 4 million homes, and the only long-term solution to this problem is to build them. But the implementation of these tariffs will make it more costly to do so, putting a question mark on whether they can be built at the lower price points that are most undersupplied.
Yeah. It's kind of a double-edged sword, because we need more housing. We don't have enough to meet the demand. We have an affordability crisis too.
Sure, yeah.
Because there are homes available, but there are certain people that are stuck in the situations that they're in, whether it be renting, living with family, or being in a home that they already own that's too small or too large for their needs, because we don't have the affordability, like our teachers and our firefighters, they can't afford to buy the homes that are available, and the entry-level homes that are maybe potentially in their budget per se don't meet the needs of their family.
Sure.
So it's kind of troubling in that sense, especially considering the rising costs of everything. I mean, we saw that happen with COVID. Just what happened, just in terms of the cost of building and the time it took to build because of everything being shut down, and then the prices going up because of the demand and the supply being low and all that. We're going to probably see a resurgence of some of that happening, especially new construction and just renovation in general.
Yeah.
This is why I'm finishing my basement right now. This was supposed to be a summer project, while Joe, the teacher, is not in school, and this was not supposed to be happening right now, but we saw the writing on the wall, and we just decided, let's just do it now before we can't buy the lumber. So
that's right.
So that was it's an interesting thing, and that's just a very personal connection to how the tariffs and how the way that things are happening can affect people. But I do think that the issue with housing is going to really be battled out locally, or it should be at least, because, as we see, here, for example, we have a couple of nonprofits like Project Neighbors that help try to fill the gap through volunteer, providing more affordable housing for people. And there's some other people around that are popping up and working on trying to do that. I sit on the BZA, and we just approved some zoning variances for a nonprofit company that's going to make it an attempt to build affordable housing for people.
Oh, great.
Yep. So it's happening, but we need, in order to bridge the gap between how much it costs to build a house, which inevitably is going up, and the affordability of what people can actually afford to pay for certain things. We got to meet in the middle, and that comes in the form of public-private partnerships. There's a lot of access to tax incentives for developers to come into places. Valpo, we love, we're so big on giving out, we love to give them.
Yeah.
And that's true in any place that is developing or redeveloping or growing. They're throwing incentives, at these developers. And so the way that we can help make housing more affordable is to make use of that and work with the municipalities. Those are the people that are going to be granting the zoning and are going to be doing all that stuff. And a lot of that goes into the cost of the home, is the logistics side of everything.
Oh, sure.
So I feel like hopefully we'll see some more of that. As it kind of on the federal government, they're cutting down payment assistance programs. They're not really interested in doing any of that right now. This administration is focused on other things. So the responsibility of that is really going to fall on the individual municipalities and the counties to advocate for that change within, to kind of help the people in their neighborhood. I think we're going to see a lot more of that. That's really the reasonable, in my opinion, what we need to do.
Oh, for sure. I absolutely agree with that. And you think about the average home cost in Valparaiso and how each and every year that goes up.
Yeah.
And so when you look at that, what do the young couple, they're 23 years old, what options do they have? What options does the single mom working at Target have, or the widower that's 65 and he's working at Home Depot? And what options do they have? And currently, it's slim. And as you said, from a federal government perspective, a lot of those programs are going away. So it is a concern.
Yeah, I think it is. It's a big concern, and it's scary,
Yeah.
I mean, it's people that I know personally. It's myself. It's like I work with people, like that's my job too. So it really hits close to home, and I think about it a lot.
Yeah.
And I think that the way that, like, what we really have to look at is making sure that the information that we're consuming is correct. And really, like, doing our best also on the other side of that is to share the knowledge that we do know with others. Educating and being educated are two of the biggest superpowers and ways to get ahead through all of this, is to just keep your head on straight, get your facts right, and plan accordingly. And recognize that that's going to look different for everybody.
Oh, sure.
Every single person that you mentioned in that example are going to have different needs, but they all have the same problem.
Correct.
And so the way that we find the solutions to that problem is to just be really keen on getting the right information and preparing for that, because there are ways that you can buy a home with no money down or low money down. There are incentives out there for now that could change, that help, with the costs. There are ways that you don't have to put 20% or more down on a house that you're going to live in. You can utilize lending programs that are available to put lower down payments. And you can do all kinds of different things. I have some clients right now that they're buying a house together and they're best friends, because it's just more, it just makes sense.
Sure. Yeah.
Like, you just buy a big enough house for the two of you, and that cost of living ends up being less than whatever it would have been for each of you to have your own little place.
Exactly.
And so, thinking outside the box and maybe kind of like looking at other ways to make it work.
Yeah.
And then, like for the 65-year-old that working at Home Depot, a big thing is to just, if you own a home, find out how much it's worth, because chances are a lot of people in that age group and up have lived in the same home for a really long time. And some of them even built them themselves.
Sure. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. And that home could be the key to unlocking being able to do something and sustain yourself for longer. And being able to connect yourselves with the right tools and the right resources and the right people that know how to get you to those tools and resources is just imperative, because there's always a way. It's not impossible. It's difficult and it's a scary time, but I find that when you make it like there's no other way I'm going to make it happen, it generally you'll make it happen. You'll find a way. There's always a way, but you just have to be willing to think that there is a way, and that's where I'm at with that.
All right. No, that was awesome. And at that one point where you started mentioning, like your basement and doing the construction and everything, now that kind of led into this next question, which is the United States gets most of its lumber from Canada. And we get a significant amount of gypsum from Mexico, and gypsum is the main component of drywall. So that being the case, and the massive tariffs that are being placed on our neighbors, our lovely, wonderful neighbors that are just being treated poorly, different story altogether. Will these tariffs on our neighbors and the products coming in that are so necessary in new construction, is this going to be natural? Is it just going to be natural, and it's going to? I've seen rates as much as 10 to 15% of new home costs going up, and then if that happens, is that something that filters down to everything else?
Yeah, it's so hard to say, honestly. I'm not an economist, and I'm only 30, so I haven't really firsthand experienced enough yet to really have a grasp on all of this.
Yeah.
But I think that I have a feeling, and I could be wrong, that a lot of this is for show. and that the end result is going to fall somewhere in the middle between where we were before and where we are right now. It feels like this is like a very big, like, weird, this the way that he does business, you know, and that is kind of his shtick.
Yep.
And I don't know. I don't want to make any assumptions on the information that we know today because one, we don't know all the information. Right. We only know what they're telling us. And usually what they're telling us is not the full story.
It's not the full story, right.
And so I would be reserved to form an opinion on what this is actually going to do until we actually have all the facts and we have a little bit of time in the market to kind of see like, okay, like what's going on? You know, are prices going to go up or are the builders just going to stop offering incentives? Maybe. Because what I see a lot of is that they have their homes, priced accordingly to the market. And the builders are offering huge buy down rates, 4 point something, 5.1, low compared to the 6.8 to 7% that you're getting on market. If you use their lender and you do their whatever the process is, offering, huge closing cost credits. Just so much. There's a lot. They're throwing thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars into incentivizing people to purchase their product. And so because of that feels to me like that stuff will fall away before they increase the prices because that stuff can fall away and it won't be sensationalized in the media. Sure. They raise the prices and Yahoo Finance is going to be talking about, naming the builders that are jacking up their prices and it's going to make them look bad. Mm-hmm. And, it's all about optics, right? Oh, so for sure. I would expect if we continue along this, if we're talking about new construction specifically and just adding to the inventory that's available, I would see interest rates are probably going to start coming down. They're going to use that to offset the tariffs and the implications on the economy and the affordability and stuff. So interest rates will probably come down some. And the builder incentives that they've been using to offset the high interest rates will fall away. And we'll continue to see just like a more stabilization in the market, but and then we're just going to see it continue to be sensationalized in the media. And there's going to be some places in the country that can't accommodate new builds, and it's going to be not good, I would assume. But then there's going to be other areas that do have more land that can be utilized for new construction, and they'll be able to kind of weather the storm a little bit longer. And then it also just depends again on how they're partnering with the localities and just kind of time. I think people are just going to need to get a little bit more innovative. Yeah. And think outside the box on the business side and on the consumer side. Because that's, the tough spot that we're in right now is filled with opportunity if you find the right avenues. And that's what we have to do is we have to find the things that are going to work because we have no choice. Yeah, right. Correct. Or so.
That's true. Yeah. Now, many economists are saying that these tariffs will also drive inflation, which has been high, was coming down, could end up being an issue again, and then possible that R word that everybody doesn't like, which is a recession, which affects every industry. Yeah. Does this affect the consumer's purchase power? And is it possible that mortgage rates are going to creep up as a result?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that they're going to, again, to my point, I think that they're going to leverage the high interest rates and they're going to bring them down to help combat inflation and help also just kind of shape the narrative to be a little bit more positive, just in the same way that they did with COVID when the economy kind of started to crash and all of that, and industries were struggling, they dropped those interest rates to help offset that. So it kind of went into a free fall, and I think that caused a problem in the market, like we talked about at the beginning. And so hopefully they've learned the lesson and we do it a little bit more, just kind of a trickle down, just slowly, a little bit at a time, just kind of warm it up slowly and, lay it down easy. So then that way we don't see a huge reaction to pop the bubble.
Correct.
So I don't really think that interest, I don't know. Anything could change.
Right.
I would have thought that they would be lower by now already, and they hadn't. The last couple of opportunities they had, were not what I was expecting. So anything can change, of course. But I think that, again, even if you look at what happened in 2008, closings never went to zero. There was always property being exchanged every single day. There were always people moving. There were always people selling, always people buying.
Sure.
And it didn't always work out for everybody. And that's just an unfortunate reality of these. It's a real world consequence.
Yes, it is.
But there's ways around that. And again, it's just back to the education and just making sure that you're understanding the right stuff and that you're, making the right plan that makes the most sense for you. And, just gotta be equipped with the good knowledge. It's just the misinformation is what causes all the frenzy. A lot of times, people make bad decisions when they're panicked or acting emotionally. And so the best thing that we can do is do our best to pull the emotion out of it and just look at, what it is. Because housing is absolutely necessary for survival. You have to have it. I believe it's a human right to have it.
Yes.
And that's a whole other conversation.
You got that right. Absolutely.
But, we have to work within what we have available, so it's kind of a double-edged sword. And it sucks sometimes to be aware.
It does.
Sometimes
it totally
I
does.
wish I hadn't taken that pill that Neo gave, from Morpheus gave me because, yeah,
I know. And then this is kind of a conversation we touched on a little bit, but as it pertained to affordable housing, it just continues to be a problem, and not just here in Valparaiso or Northwest Indiana. It's a problem everywhere. And what steps do we take? And I know we discussed a little bit of this, but what steps do we take in this economy to improve that access to affordable housing? One story that I was reading the other day, I think it was out of the Post, and they were talking about how New York City had a lottery. And they had this lottery based on all these new studio and one bedroom high-rise efficiencies and everything that they were building, and just kind of had this lottery. And whether that was more gimmicky than anything, who's to say? But it was kind of their approach to a problem. And so, what are your thoughts on this?
I have so many thoughts. The first thing that I would say would be the number one problem about affordable housing, I think, is the term in and of itself. Because affordable housing is different for every person.
Sure.
What a person deems to be affordable may not be deemed affordable to the next guy sitting next to you.
Sure.
And so when you say affordable housing, a different image comes to mind for everybody. So when I ran for mayor, I kind of was trying to, in my messaging, kind of rebrand it and redirect the perspective to reasonably priced housing. It becomes less personal and more factual, because we're not talking about affordable to who. We're talking about what is reasonable price for the product that we have.
Yeah.
And, so based on what the average income in the area is, how do you meet that need, and how do you identify what fills that, what the need is? So reasonably priced housing is, in my opinion, a better way of looking at it, because it takes a lot of the opinion out of it. And so, and that will also help destigmatize affordable housing, because another problem, again, with the just term, you say affordable housing, and a lot of people think the slums of New York.
Oh, right.
Or they think whatever, drug addicts and homeless people and all of that, quote unquote terrible stuff that we don't want in our backyard. Why would we? If you build it, they will come, right? So this negative connotation that if we build housing that is affordable for our teachers, somehow that's going to lead to a higher level of crime and drug use in our communities.
Because that negative stereotype is attached
Yes,
to it.
exactly. Right. But the reality is that providing reasonably priced housing in your community is going to statistically make it safer.
Yes.
Because your teachers are going to be living in the neighborhoods of the schools that they teach, so they're going to have a more, they're going to be more invested in the students.
Yeah.
And the police officers that are patrolling your neighborhoods are going to do a better job and provide a higher level of service because it's their neighborhood that they're patrolling, and it's the neighbors that they know that they're around. And so that can provide safer policing and a better relationship with the community and the police. Because guess what? Most police officers can't afford a $500,000 home.
Correct.
They just can't. I mean, maybe if they saved up their whole life and, lived in a studio apartment for the last 15 years and just stashed their cash and never did anything, maybe. But we gotta be, same thing with the fire. They're gonna know the homes, they're gonna know the neighborhoods, they're gonna know how to get their trucks there faster, which is gonna save people's lives.
Yeah.
Right? So why wouldn't we want that in our neighborhood? And statistically speaking, when you look at mixed income neighborhoods, where you have just different kinds of people of different socioeconomic statuses living together, you have a more cohesive and successful, thriving life in that area, as opposed to sticking all the rich people behind the gate and putting all the poor people on the other side of the tracks.
Yeah.
It lowers everyone's quality of life when you do it that way.
It does. It really does.
So, we've got to destigmatize what housing is and what is deemed affordable. And another thing, we have got to revisit the expectations of what we're providing. Because I'm sorry, we don't all need 5 bathrooms and granite countertops.
No.
We as Americans love having access, everything. We go in our stores and it's filled to the brim with food that they throw out every single day.
Yeah.
And yet there's people living outside of that grocery store that are starving to death on the street. And it's the same thing with the housing problem. We have an expectation of what people think they need. And it muddies the waters of what we think we can build. A lot of people say we can't solve the affordable housing crisis. We can't afford to build the homes. But do we really need to build these extravagant? No, we don't. We don't have to put granite in every house. We don't you can even repurpose old, the cabinets from a house that maybe was demolished, but the kitchen was still in decent shape. You can save those cabinets and put them in the next house and reuse them. And then that also helps with the environment too.
Correct.
Finding ways to be resourceful and rethink what it is that that people need to survive and to get by, and kind of go from there. So I think a lot of it is mindset over anything else.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
There's a community that I was reading about, I think it was in either Washington or Oregon, and this company had the idea to take these shipping containers that were just sitting in this yard and nobody was using them, and thought, you know what, we can make these into livable spaces.
It's cool.
And they did, and they're really neat. They're actually pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, tiny homes are a thing. I really enjoyed learning about co-ops and community land trusts, and the models of success in other areas in the country and other places in the world that utilize kind of like a co-owned, almost like a condo, where the condo owner owns everything from the drywall in, and then the condo association owns everything from the drywall out, and you all contribute to the common spaces, and you pay for common insurance, and you pay, the HOA. In a community land trust or a co-op, there's ways that you can kind of do that where everyone kind of buys in, and they help build them sometimes. or they help, they put in hours, which helps qualify them for that's something Habitat for Humanity does that, actually.
Oh, do they?
Yeah. I learned that when we volunteered together.
We did volunteer, yeah.
So they told me that, because one of the people there was the soon-to-be homeowner. Mm-hmm. And she brought her kids, and like they were all working, and it was the coolest thing. They taught me that, there's X amount of hours that they need to put in to help their build. And so that also kind of helps, like, okay, you've put in the time, and that's your sweat equity.
Correct.
In exchange for that, then we're going to provide this product at an affordable price for you. And so kind of leaning into that model on a larger scale, I think would be really interesting to see, especially in our area.
It would be. Mm-hmm. It would be. And I can only speak for the property that we worked on, but I know there's some other ones here, and then I helped with a few builds with Project Neighbors, that these are really cute little homes.
They're great.
They're
oh my
beautiful.
God.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and I just think about my own experience. My first home that I rented after moving out of my mom's house with my daughter and my boyfriend at the time, it was a 500 square foot, 2-bedroom little bungalow over on Wildwood in Valpo. And it was like the tiniest, like, little shack house.
Yeah.
But it was just enough. It was enough space, and we made do, and then eventually we outgrew it, and we moved up into the next thing.
Sure.
And that home, it was provided to me at an affordable price and for what it was. And that allowed me to establish that base and get to the next thing.
Yeah.
And that made me a better, more present parent, made me a better citizen. It made me a harder worker. It helped me advance eventually into the career that I'm in now, and I'm able to help more people. And so I just want to really push on that mindset. Like we have got to help people, because when you help people, those people are able to help themselves. And when they help themselves, they're able to be a better person in general. And then they're more likely to help the next person. And then that domino effect of personal excellence is what makes the whole world better.
Being that more involved member of the community.
Yes. And, there's just like people on public assistance or that receive this or that are demonized. And it is so freaking weird to me that we demonize people for asking for help.
When they need help, right.
Yes. And that's a whole other conversation. Well, I will not derail this show today. But
Hannah, for anybody that's listened to my podcast or any of my other shows, we go off the highway often. We do it. We find our way back, but
I'm trying to stay on the course here.
I love organic conversations, and for me, it's kind of like whatever way the wind blows,
Yeah. I just love the opportunity. I think connection is missing. I keep saying this, is that we communicate more as people than we ever have in human history, but we connect the least. And the reason that we're struggling as a society, and we are where we are on a global scale, is because of the lack of connection. Mm-hmm. And I've been learning about connection in the last year or so, and I've really kind of taken it to heart. I'm really committed to wanting to be more connected and to also provide more connection to others. So this is a really cool way to do that, and I appreciate it.
It is. That's awesome. Yep, I agree. There was something interesting that I was also reading about, and this is that boomers aren't selling their homes, but they are outpacing millennials in buying homes, which I found to be very interesting. What are your thoughts on this?
Okay, so one, boomers aren't selling homes for two big reasons. One, because they, are afraid. A lot of them don't have mortgage payments on those homes. They bought them in 1968 or built them in 1975 or whatever their situation is, like we talked about earlier. And they're, afraid if they sell the home, then what are they going to do? Where are they going to go? Right? How can they afford, right? I don't want to go into assisted living yet. Right. I don't want to let go of that. Or I can't afford that, or I don't want to place my burden on the family, or whatever it is. And then on the other side of that also is, I think a lot of it is emotional. A lot of people who are in that age group have an attachment to the physical things, like I think about my grandma. She was a child growing up in the Great Depression in southern Indiana.
Ooh.
She didn't have nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so then when she, they survived that and got out of it, and she went on to live her life, like she was really like attached to like physical things, like going shopping all the time, and it wasn't like a hoard, like it wasn't like that. It was just like she didn't want to let go of those things, and she wanted to hold on tight to them because you know what it's like to not have any of it, right?
Correct.
So
Yep.
I think a lot of maybe in that age group struggle maybe a little bit with that, and just the emotional, they're in that stage of life, right, where they know that they have less time now than what they have already lived. And that's a hard thing to kind of come to terms with, I think, maybe.
Yeah.
And to let go of the memories that you had in that home that you built with your own two hands. That is something that has been lost, I think, maybe in some of these newer generations with our consumerism. Yeah. We just like go through stuff. Like that generation was built to last. Stuff was built and you kept it forever.
You did.
And then the wheels fell off and you replaced the wheels and you keep it going.
Yeah.
Right? So I think there's just like a different school of thought. It's just, an independence thing as well. Because a lot of, the next step is going to be some sort of maybe like an apartment living situation, an independent living situation, or moving in with family. They don't want to give that up. That autonomy is really important to them. And we got to do a better job of honoring that. We are so disrespectful to our elders. It is beside me. I can't. That's a whole other conversation.
Yeah.
So there's that. They're not selling. But to your point about how they are outpacing millennials in purchasing homes.
Yeah.
Two things. One, their economy was different growing up, and so they were able to, potentially, obviously, been on planet Earth longer, so could potentially have more money saved up than the millennial.
Sure.
So that's one thing, having more buying power. And another thing is that we see, I come across it a lot, where parents are purchasing homes for their children.
Interesting.
Yeah, and so, or even co-signing, because they've got better credit or whatever the situation might be. Like everyone's situation is different, but I do see that often, and I have seen it before where they've come in with cash and they've purchased the home for their son or their daughter or their whatever. This is their aunt, their sister, whoever.
Yeah.
And they basically become the lender, and like they pay them back. Right? And they're like, I don't want you to go through this system. Like, I've got the cash here. You pay me back, and we'll do it that way. Or they're just giving it to them because, or there's a million reasons why. There's multi-generational living is becoming a lot more popular now. We're seeing 2 and 3 generations purchasing property together or moving into property that's already in ownership, and are because the cost of living is high. It's high. And so for some people, the reasonable thing to do is to move in together and live together. Why wouldn't you, right? Like I was talking about with the 2 friends that are buying a house together right now. Like, if you can, why not? Why wouldn't you?
Why wouldn't you do it?
So that's, I think, part of where some of the data may be getting a little manipulated because of that. Like, maybe they're purchasing for a millennial.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's part of it.
Interesting.
Yep.
The last question that I have is for those that are selling, what advice can you give them? What steps should they take to get their house ready?
Ooh, I love this question. First, go to Hannah Trueblood's YouTube channel and watch the 5-part video series of how to sell your house in Indiana.
Ooh, I love that.
But when you're done with that, really what you want to do is, well, first of all, kind of assess your situation and get a professional to come in and help you understand where you're at now and what you need to do to get to where you want to be. Fact finding, numero uno. Find those professionals that you know, like, and trust. Hire that real estate agent to help you get ready. One thing that I always recommend to my sellers, first and foremost, is get a home inspection. It is, $400 to $600, depending on the size of the location of the home and the things that extra things that you might get on it. But that $400 to $600 is going to put you in such a solid position in the market. It's going to possibly save you thousands of dollars and a lot of headache down the line. Because if you get that home inspection before you list, one, you can get ahead of any potential issues.
Sure.
So you're putting out a better product just right off the bat that way. If there's like a couple little things, you can fix those things and be ahead of the game. Number two, you can get ahead of any potential deal killers. If you come to find out you've got mold in your basement, or come to find out you've got a problem with your roof, or you've got a termite, like something major that would be a deal killer, you can get ahead of that before you even take it to market. And the thing that really helps set you apart as a seller in that situation is keeping the ball in your court.
Yeah.
When you go in blind and you list your home, there are 100 things going on that you are not aware of, because that's just how home inspections are. And that's all houses. Even new construction has a 30-page report of issues. So, when a buyer comes in, what we're thinking about when we're representing buyers is, okay, we're headed into inspection and we can renegotiate there.
Yeah.
So we're coming in with the expectation that we're going to be coming for you in that home inspection.
Oh, for sure.
And we're going to use that as leverage. So when you are a seller, what you want to do is you want to kind of remove that leverage from the buyer and put it in your hands. Because now you can say, well, hey, I actually had this home inspected and I fixed this, and this. Boom. Now you are appearing more transparent. You are presenting a better product, and you're saving yourself money, because usually the cost of those repairs are going to probably be less than what you could recoup in terms of like the negotiation with the buyer. They're going to always ask for more because they're putting a cushion in that request.
Sure.
So that in case whatever next thing, right? So home inspection numero uno, like that is like my big thing. That little $500 investment is going to save you thousands down the line. And it just helps you feel more confident going into a deal, because already like pretty much most of whatever they're going to find when they get a home inspection.
Yeah.
So hiring a trusted inspection company to do that is going to be great. And then if you are planning on purchasing your next place, start looking and start working with a lender, or, if you're going to pay cash, and that's a different story. But if you're going to finance the next thing, talk to that lender now and get ready. So that way, in case there's something going on that you need to make an adjustment to be able to afford whatever the little things are, you want to be as prepared as possible, because it is going to be a cluster storm when you list that home and you're going and negotiating deals on another home and packing and moving and handling showings, and it is a lot. It's
a lot.
So as much as you can front load and take off that main course as possible, it'd just make it a little smoother and a little less stressful. Those are really your big things. And then 3, you probably don't turn off HGTV. Okay, I'm just going to say it. Don't watch it. Unfollow, because you do not need to present a product like that to be able to be competitive and sell in this market. You do not have to rehab your whole house. You don't. You don't. Make sure the bones are good and the home will sell.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of people that are just like that, and they want to, get... stage it perfectly, which I understand staging. Yes. I understand how that's an important component.
There's value in that. I mean, I stage every listing. I don't inherently bring in furniture and stuff, but there are ways that you want to present a good product. I'm not talking about unclean and dirty laundry on the floor. Don't do that.
Don't do that.
For the love of God, don't take cell phone pics. Hire a photographer.
Sure.
Every single agent listening to this, hire a photographer. You can afford to do that.
Yeah.
And if you are shopping for agents, ask them about if they are using professional photography. Nobody needs to be shooting on an iPhone. I know the photos look nice, but professional photography, they know what they're doing and they make it look better.
That I could not agree more with that.
So
if
mad.
You go on to the MLS and you see people that have invested in a professional photographer, especially one that does work in real estate,
yes,
it's a huge difference than people that just snap
yes,
their own
and you
photos.
can tell, and first impressions are everything. And I'm
Yeah.
not saying misrepresent the house. Like, we're not photoshopping these photos, but they know how to get the angles to make the rooms look the best, to get people to come and see the house, which is the point. That's the point of the MLS, and the point of the photos is to get people to want to see the house.
Yeah.
So
100%.
that is like one of my biggest pet peeves in the world are cell phone pics, especially when they're doing the bathroom and you can see them in the mirror with the flash.
Oh no, are you kidding?
I'm like, this is a $400,000 house. Like, what are you doing? I don't even care if it's a $2,000 house, though. I do professional photography for every single one because everybody deserves to have that level of service in their home.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this has been an amazing conversation. This has been Hannah Trueblood, real estate professional here in Northwest Indiana. And for especially a lot of our local listeners, although people from outside of Indiana come in, whether it's investment property, other stuff, they come in and buy and sell as well. What information would you like to give them?
Oh, great. I love how we're just ending this on me raging about photos. So thanks for the tee up to make it, to end it real nicely. I love that.
I did.
I was like, oh no, we're ending there. Real in Indiana. Yeah. If you are looking to buy or sell in Indiana, go to my YouTube channel. I got a whole video series about how to buy and how to sell. So that's that. You can find me there. You can find me on Instagram, HannahTrueblood.realtor. Facebook, Hannah Trueblood Real Estate Broker. I'm pretty easy to find. There's not a whole lot of Hannah Truebloods that are real estate brokers out there. But also, it doesn't matter where you live. Anywhere in the world, if you have a real estate question, like, get in touch with me and I can connect you to someone in your area. I'm part of a global network. So At Properties and Christie's International is literally all over the globe. So I'm going to France in June, and I am going to be visiting the Paris Christie's.
That is exciting.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I really hope they'll show me a chateau because I just would love to see one. So I will update you on whether I get into the French chateau.
It's on the bucket list. Yes. I love it. That's amazing.
I might as well utilize that. I want to connect with the Parisian realtors because why wouldn't you? That's fun.
That's awesome. Yes. I'm so excited for you.
And je parle français un peu.
Oh, already got that down?
I speak a little French. Duolingo.
Yeah, okay, that's good. That'll come in handy.
Yes.
For sure.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been fun.
Definitely. This has been fun, and won't be the last time. Hannah has her tendrils in the community here and helps out so many people, just part of the National Organization for Women here in Northwest Indiana, and marginalized communities and affordable housing. You do it all, man. And I have to say, as a member of this community, we appreciate you.
Oh, well, the feeling is mutual. You guys give me a reason to get out of bed every morning and fight. So
yeah. Well, we all need to fight together is one thing we have to do.
We all need to fight, but we also need to remember to love ourselves and love each other and be more kind.
For sure.
To everyone. That's my closing remark. Just be kind to yourself and to others because you deserve that and so do they.
Life lesson right there. Hannah Trueblood, thank you so much. This has been the Mark Mo Show podcast. You can catch it on all the podcast platforms as well as YouTube. And if you are local, this will be on the air several times. And just hit up the socials, either Mark Mo Show podcast or mine, Mark Maloney or Hannah Trueblood. And we'll let you know when we're going to be on the air. And we appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you for listening. Take care, everybody.